Good evening. This is Driven Women TV, and I am Marie Younger Blackburn, your host. Today I am here to talk about our upcoming retreat, Driven by Vision, right? So we're in our fourth year of Cape Cod's Conference for Women, and we are going to do a new thing this year. We're going to take it down and convene with women at the beautiful Camp Linden campground in Sandwich, Massachusetts. It's a YMCA camp. It's 79 beautiful acres of land. There are a few buildings there, fireplace, some nice cozy things that we're going to be able to enjoy. We're going to do a hike with the women, and we're just going to do some vision work. So we're going to do vision boards, and we're going to just have the women kind of go deep, relax and go deep in order to renew and motivate their minds so that when they come out back into the community, into their work, into their businesses, that they will be ready. So I'm here today with one of our presenters, Pastor Christie Burns. She is the Associate Pastor of West Parish in Barnstable, the oldest congregational church right here in the U.S.
That's correct.
Yes, so I'm just happy to have you and share you with our audience today and share you with the women who will be coming to the retreat on March 3rd. So let's get right down to it. I just want the audience to know more about you and your background.
Okay.
So you're a mother of 4. Let's start there.
Okay, I am. I have 4 kids. I have a daughter who's 28, and she's living in London and studying a master's degree in positive psychology, and she's a life coach, and she's really loving that. And I have a 24-year-old daughter who is a scientist at New England Aquarium. I have an 18-year-old son who's a freshman at Brown University in Providence, and a daughter, Lydia, who is a freshman in high school.
Awesome. They all sound like they're doing well and doing positive things out there in the community. No thanks to you. And prayer, right?
A lot of prayer.
Lots of prayer, yeah. So, yeah, your work and in the church. I just want to go back for a minute. You are the creator of the Baby Center in Hyannis, a nonprofit that was created for low income, right, moms,
That's right,
to be able to give goods and services to them. You want to talk about that and how that came to be?
Sure. Well, I had this little boy. His name was Camden, and I had studied to be a pastor at Harvard Divinity School, and then I was home taking care of the baby, and the then executive director of the Council of Churches, Cape Cod Council of Churches, came to me and said, I'm really thinking there might be a need to help out babies and families who are living in poverty here on the Cape. And I said, I would love to do that. And so we started a nonprofit, and we help out low-income women and children and their parents or grandparents who are raising the children, and we help out women who are 7 months pregnant, and for all children from birth to age, it was 3 when I was there, it may be age 5 now, and they can get free diapers and wipes and clothing, baby equipment we have, and they can come once a month. And so it's a wonderful resource, and then people in the community also give back. So when your baby grows out of clothing, they usually haven't worn it out yet. So it's a wonderful way we can recycle. So it's a beautiful baby boutique, and our moms go there, and we have really great programs there, and it connects up with all the other social service agencies that are on the Cape, whether you need WIC or supplemental nutrition, or maybe you need fuel help. We sort of connect the dots.
That's amazing. Are you still involved with that? Or
I have
you...
not. I've
No?
moved into full-time just working in the church.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful chapter in my life.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
You know, part of our mission for Driven is to drive women to be the change in their own community. So you sound like a community changer. You've done a great service for Cape Cod, and I know that work still continues. Are they still in Hyannis?
They are. They're still in Hyannis.
Next to TJ Maxx, is it?
No. So we are located in the back of the Federated Church of Hyannis.
Okay.
And so we're on Willow Street across from the old bus station.
I know. Okay.
And so we're open Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
But not Fridays or the weekends.
Perfect.
And we have Monday evening hours from 5 to 7 for working parents.
Okay. So is your work full-time
It
with
is
the church?
part-time, and I
Part-time.
also do a lot of other community work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Such as, I met you a couple of years ago at Philanthropy Day, and were you there
I was there
representing
as
your
the
church?
director of the baby center.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
you've
was
left
working.
within those
Yeah,
last couple of years.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Now you're at your church,
Right.
part-time,
Yeah.
in the capacity of associate pastor.
Correct.
You want to tell me about your day-to-day work and what your actual ministry is?
Sure. So I'm very interested in community work.
Okay.
So every Monday you can find me at Starbucks in Hyannis, right next to Trader Joe's in the Christmas tree shops. I'm there from 10:30 to 1, and I meet people in the community. So not just church members. Church members are awesome. We love to have them, but I also love to meet and work with people from across the community, whether you are interested in getting to know Jesus or God, or you just need someone to talk to.
Sure.
So I'm there. If you come, I'll buy you a free cup of coffee or tea, and I'd be happy to just sit.
Now I
and meet
see
with
that
you.
on Facebook every Monday. You're
do.
like, I'm here.
I'm here. I'm
And
waiting for
a lot of my
people.
work was done in coffee shops too,
Yeah.
because people are relational and they're seeking relationships. So I have a business called HOP. It's a business connector, right? So I meet with hundreds of business owners around Cape Cod, and what I seek to do is, kind of get to know them. Before I want to know what you do, I want to know who you are. And I met with you in
Yeah.
Cape Cod Coffee,
Right.
just a week ago, and it was one of the best conversations I've had in a long time, where you just kind of go deep and get to know someone and their worldview, how they see the world. So that's important, that outreach that you're doing. How is that going? Do you get
Great.
a lot of people?
I meet a lot of people.
Okay.
So like last week, I had 3 people come in who don't worship with us.
Okay.
But I've gotten to know. One is a local parent who sends their kid to our preschool, West Parish Family School, and she's a doctor at the hospital.
Okay.
And she's been reading my sermons and listening to the podcasts from the website, and her children have been listening. So they've
Nice.
come to Christmas Eve, and so they're kind of becoming connected.
Yeah.
And I read stories to the children at West Parish Family School every Wednesday.
Okay.
So I meet all the children at our family school who are not members of the church, but
So you have a school?
we do.
Okay.
We have a preschool,
Yes,
a NIAC
okay.
accredited preschool
Sure.
that helps 15 months through age 5. And so I do that. So, and then she brought in her yoga friend who owns Evoke Yoga.
Okay.
And then who walks in but another friend of mine,
Okay.
Panilla, who owns Let Be, Panilla's yoga studio, 2 yoga
Oh,
studios
nice.
from Hyannis.
Nice.
And those business owners got to meet each
other,
other
yeah.
through coffee hours.
Sure.
So it's sort of the business to business, the networking.
Yes.
But then we talked about matters of spirituality and faith and parenting and
Yes.
all
yes,
the stuff.
yes.
It was
you
great.
really can't touch somebody spiritually or with Jesus. You can't really introduce the message of Jesus, I think, unless you touch something in them that connects with them, right? So I did a lot of outreach. I was the outreach minister for my church, and we would go into the homeless shelters and we'd feed people. So
That's right.
physical food.
Right.
We'd bring our best, just beautiful platters. And people don't realize the amount of homelessness and shelters here on Cape Cod
We
that
have
it exists.
a lot of
yeah.
cyclical poverty, and a
Yeah.
lot of poverty here on the
Yeah.
Cape, and people see the beautiful trophy homes, or they only come and visit for a week or 2 weeks in the summertime, and they don't realize that, in the wintertime it's hard, even for people who have good summer jobs,
Right.
but too hard to make it through the lean months of winter.
Yeah, and there's a lot of need here for, whether you're in business or whatever you have going on in your life, there's a spiritual need. And that's why I asked you to come and be a presenter and facilitate some of that need at the retreat. Because every year at the conference, there are women who come up to me, they break down and cry. And this is largely a businesswoman's conference, but they have need. Things like divorce comes up, or health issues, largely health issues, financial issues, and those things are brought to the forefront when we convene together as women. So I'm glad that you're going to be at the retreat to be able to sit and to meet the needs of some of those, women that may have that come up, and hopefully it leads them back to to you on Sundays, you know?
Yeah, so I think the thing about when you open yourself up to be vulnerable in a time, a retreat, a time away from the hectic demands of either work or raising a family or just getting everything done on your to-do list, you can become raw. And what we should do, hopefully, at this retreat that you're setting up is provide a space where if things seem to fall apart, there's those wide arms, a network that can help you hold you and realize that just because you've broken bits, we can put ourselves back together in the most beautiful shape, a new shape, that where you're whole again and you can be the most beautiful woman that you could ever have been, not despite what has happened to you, but because of what has happened to you and where you want to go, what your vision is in the future. And God is in all of this with us.
And I'm so glad. And you speak to women who are, you know, who are Christians and those who are not as well. So it's not just a Christian move. It's a human move, right? Because we all have a mind, will, and emotion, and we all will, you know, some of those things come up and come out of all of us, you know.
That's right. And it's important to realize that if you feel a little broken apart or blown away by what's happening, that's actually great because you're letting yourself feel what's really going on. And if maybe you need to get some extra help after a big event like this, it's just an opportunity, a chance to become who you are becoming. And so I think that God is in all of this. And so I think you're a wonderful partner and leader in this because you realize how important this being a driven woman is.
It is. And driven doesn't always mean running around, right? It doesn't mean, you know, going after something. We give women in our network the opportunity to define what driven means to them, and I hope that you would write something to add to our testimonials of what it means to them. To me, it means, you know, leaving something, a legacy to my children, and taking what has gone before me and bringing that forward. And that's what it means to me. But in this journey, I've seen women, and I still see it today through social media, through my my networking contacts, that they're driving themselves for that something, right? Whether they're trying to gain success in their businesses or their personal lives, or they're trying to get better physically or what have you. And it's just the grind, and I see it. And what I don't want to reflect, and I think I may have in women, that we need to go hard, right? I think there's a period of rest and reflection, a period of renewal, right? Rest means to look back to me and reflect, right, on what you've done and be renewed. So we want to renew and motivate women in this process, right? So that when we come out, we come out, you know, blazing and ready for the work that's ahead of us. Because I believe when you empower women, you empower a community. And when you empower a community, you can impact the world, correct?
That's right.
So I'm glad you're going to be a big part of that for that day.
So one of the words that I'm working with for this year is compassion. And we can't have compassion for the world if we don't have compassion for ourselves. Jesus said that we should love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And I think sometimes the problem for women is not love of neighbor, but it's love of self.
Yes.
And so this retreat that you're providing is a chance for women to love themselves and fill up that well that may have gone dry or has been depleted from so much work and exhaustion.
Exactly.
So to have a time to walk in the woods, to sit by the lake, just like Jesus did, to sit with small groups of people who love you or you haven't even met yet but will love you.
To wash each other's feet.
To wash each other's feet. This is to serve one another and to be served.
Yes, yes.
So sometimes it's so hard for women because we're so good at service.
Yes.
Taking care of the kids or your husband or your partner or all your business colleagues or everybody who needs a free meal and the homeless shelter and everything you're doing, that you never slow down.
Yes, yes,
and just take care of your spirit, to take a little time to pray or just to be quiet or to breathe. And I think that's why yoga studios are having a big impact in the communities, is that it's an hour and a half where people are told to slow down, to lie down, to breathe, to practice breathing in and then breathing out. Because we're like, shallow breath all day long. And it's like, wait, that's not healthy.
And we need time to unplug
slow
and
down.
to slow down.
To like turn that phone off.
So when did you know that you wanted to be in the faith in a pastor?
To become a pastor.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting story. I was 19 years old, and I was in my second semester in college at University of Colorado in Boulder, and my dad committed suicide. And I loved my dad, and I was so devastated. And I had this, I wanted to be just like my dad. He was a professor, and I was like, no, I am not going to follow his path. I have to follow a new path. And I had this amazing, compassionate pastor who came to our house and just sort of literally picked up the pieces of my mom and my older brother and I and said, we can make it through this. And of course, we had a memorial service, and the church was filled to the brim because my dad had hundreds and hundreds of students and colleagues and friends show up. And so at 19, I knew that God was calling me to be a pastor. So I ended up going straight out of college to divinity school. And the question I was wondering is, why is there suffering? And is there something I can do about it? How can I help meet people who are feeling like they want to give up on life and say, you know, wait, just take a moment, take a minute. There's help. Like, and so like if you need mental health services, it's not, there's no shame. There's only hope. And so if we can just move from shame to hope, to realize if we can connect people up who feel despair with hope. And so for me, that's where God's been calling me all along, whether I serve babies and babies and their mamas or papas or people with no children or people who just think that it's not worth going on. And I'm like, if you're depressed and you're in the bottom of the well, I'll just sit down next to you.
So you have so much inner joy. You know, your smile's like this big, you know, bright light, brighter than these set lights here. It's just so huge. It is. And then your inner joy, it just exudes from you. Where does that come from?
So like Psalms talk about after there's great sorrow, we reap with shouts of joy. And so it's not happiness like this bubble that can just burst. Joy comes from knowing sorrow and grief and knowing that we are grateful that today we woke up. And today we're alive. And
joy
today,
comes in the morning, right?
Joy comes in the morning. And today Marie just texted me and said, do you want to come on TV? And you're like, wow, yes. I'm going to say yes to you, God. Or I'm going to say yes to an opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have to be ready to hear that
just
still
say
quiet
yes.
voice. I start my day every morning at 6 o'clock with prayer with people on the prayer line. And I try to ask God to order my steps and make me an instrument of, you know, of his peace and of his light and joy, and that's the way I've run my life, my business, and all my interactions, you know, and I'm happy with that, you know. I'm glad about it. If he says do it, then I do it. Everything from the conference to the retreat, you know, I want it to be ordered by him, you know. And I just want to be available like you for women. But the thing is that I found, and I just got this revelation this week, and I wonder if you experience this as well. I'm not him.
No.
Right? So, you know, when I feel my physical body being bogged down, so I'm suffering some back pain right now or whatever, I feel, you know, God was speaking to me, you're not it. You know, and do you have those moments where you feel that you take on the burdens of people, because it's heavy work to be able to listen and to be available for people with suffering and need, and sometimes, you know, you feel that. So how do you deal with that?
So yeah, it's always a challenge, because if you really want to help people, you have to remind yourself, I'm not the savior. Messianic complex is not helpful. I work for God, I'm not God. So I work for God, I do God's work, in the best way I can, but being humble and kind is what I have to do. So when it's a lot, when I get a lot of emotional or psychological or stuff given to me, what I do is what I call dump out. So that means I go talk to someone like a clergy colleague or someone professional that's not connected to the stuff I got, and not anything personal, but just saying, I'm having a hard time. I just want to let you know I want to let it go. The other thing, so that it's just a release of some of the stuff. Like, or if you have a question like, this happened, is there something that I should be doing professionally to help this person? So if it's a medical thing, I connect up with a doctor. Or if it's a psychological thing, I refer the person to a therapist or a psychiatrist. I'm always all about refer. Like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, even though I do a lot of pastoral care and counseling. But the other thing I do is I walk my dog. So I start every morning with a morning meditation.
Sailor, right?
With Sailor, my golden retriever, who's my therapy dog. She's not an official therapy dog, but she works really hard to take good care of me. And so I walk Scorton Creek and the marshes, and I practice walking prayer. And that just really lets things go. And then it's like I can hear God's voice in the sound of birds or the wind or the ocean.
What breaks your heart?
So the number one thing that breaks my heart is when kids suffer, especially when people are not taking care of them. And so I want to save all the babies, which is why I worked at the baby center. And then I want to save all the kids. And I think maybe because my dad died, and I felt a little orphaned. So one of the things I did is I married somebody who had lost his wife to cancer, and he was widowed a couple months before I met him, and he was left with a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old daughters, and they're amazing. And I think I fell in love with the girls first, to be honest. Chased them around like the backyard and had so much fun with them, and I was like, of course I'd love to marry a family. They even have a dog. This sounds great. And so that's what I do when I see children, and if we can do things to make it better for them. I think one of the things I say is there are no other people's children. They're all our children.
Yes, it takes a village.
It is. There is not racial divisions or socioeconomic divisions. There's not sexual orientation divisions. They're all our children. And once you realize that, then you know what your work is.
How do you see the move of God here on Cape Cod? We refer to New England as the land of the chosen frozen, right?
Yes.
So people who choose to kind of be cold and, we have, I don't know, New England, when I think of it, you could live next to your neighbor and never turn and say hello, or maybe just hello, and you're focused here. And, I come from the Boston area, and there's a church on every corner, and I've been at church since I've been, a little person, and taken to church by aunt and uncle in a church van. And we were there. When we went for the day, So I grew up in the church and in the Word, and it's different here. And they're different, racially it's different here for me anyhow, and finding a church that I feel, the call of God has been a challenge for me. But anyway, generally, how do you feel the move of God in the churches? Do they come together here on Cape Cod to have a common mission of lifting people? I know that's a big question.
It is a big question, but I have some ideas.
Sure.
Well, first of all, I'm not culturally from either New England or Cape Cod, so I do see the chosen frozen idea.
Okay.
I'm from Colorado, and the West is like, hey, y'all come into my house. Like, everybody walks into his house. Churches tend to grow more exponentially.
Yes.
Because there isn't this idea of scarcity.
Yes.
And people tend to be very generous in their giving because our idea is like, we'll make more money.
Yes.
So stewardship is harder in New England because people tend to be careful stewards of their resources, their time, their talent, and their treasure. They're careful to get to know new people. If you move to Cape Cod and you're not born here, you're a lifelong wash-ashore.
Yes.
It's only if you're born here do you become a Cape Codder. And Cape Cod has been a wonderful place for us to do ministry. We've been here for 20 years, serving at West Parish of West Barnstable, and so I love serving here. How we work ecumenically and interfaith. I have been very involved in the Cape Cod Council of Churches through my work at a baby center. I think the Cape Cod Council of Churches does a great job providing assistance for people who are homeless,
Yes.
for families in need through our food pantry and through the baby center. We also have a chaplaincy program at the Cape Cod Hospital and at Spalding Rehabilitation Center. All the churches come together who are Protestant, who belong to the Cape Cod Council of Churches, which is a lot of them, to help fund this whole range of ministries, more than any one church could do. Then, as an interfaith, I've also been involved with the Barnstable Interfaith Association. So we work with also the Cape Cod Synagogue, and we do some other great outreach ministries for homelessness, all sorts of things, justice, social justice. We've done marches after different events that have happened nationally, where it was really time to speak out and stand up for, the rights of gays and lesbians after the challenges in Orlando, or some Black Lives Matter things. Yeah, like when Charleston happened, we actually in our church went up to an AME church because we're like, okay, white church, you need to be there and show up for the big events that are happening in Boston.
Right.
So we just are really thrilled to be part of the whole interfaith community here on Cape Cod, because I believe, like you believe, with the rising tide, all boats float better. Like there isn't a scarcity mentality. There's enough for everybody.
There is.
And God's abundant grace is for everybody.
Yeah. And I like to bring that message to women, that there is enough, right? And we're better together than we are apart. And I think that goes for churches as well. We have the same common goal, right? Jesus and the cross, right, is the goal to lead people to Christ. So I'm just glad for your work here on Cape Cod, the work of your ministry, of your church, your outreach ministry, your vibrancy that you bring to, I think, men and women, right? And we can find you where on your podcast?
Yeah.
You preach every Saturday?
www.westparish.org.
Okay. And you bring the word every Saturday
at 4:30.
Oh, I'd love to hear you.
I'd love to have you come.
You seem as if you speak your mind, right, in the heart of God, in practical, because we have to meet people where they are, And
I am a practical preacher.
Yeah, and I think that touches people. I need to see me in the story, right? When the woman at the well, I need to see me in her story in order for that really to pierce my heart, to make a difference. So I'm glad to have you, and I'm glad to have you at our retreat on March 3rd on Saturday at Camp Linden and Sandwich. We're going to walk the Grace Trail as well, and you'll hear more about that at the retreat. And Pastor Christie will be leading that walk. She loves to walk through the woods, and we're just going to take a little walk. So we have so much planned for that day, but it's not going to be heavy work, right? We're going to take it down. We're going to renew. We're going to motivate women so that they can go out and be change makers like Christie in their communities. We're going to have a lot of joy, hopefully a little tears, right?
We can have it all, the range of emotions.
Some good food, some good fellowship. And so you guys can find us on our website at www.capecodsconferenceforwomen.com. And you can read all about our presenters, and you can register today, because we do have a limited amount of tickets for this venue, right? We want to keep it intimate. Some of our sponsors for this event are Laurentide of Mashpee Commons. We have Cape Cod Coffee, and we have Right Key Mortgage. We'll be sponsoring some youth. We always bring youth into our events because we want to steward those young women, And so again, I'm so happy to have you. Is there anything else you want to say to our audience before we wrap up?
I can't wait to walk the Grace Trail with you, and come on down to West Parish at 4:30 on Saturdays. I'd love to see you.
Oh yeah, we'll be there.
All right.
Bring a whole bunch of driven women to that.
All right. So, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and I can't wait to do more with you.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, awesome.